Hello everyone, I hope everyone can hear me. So it's just 3 p.m. in Denmark and much over times around the world. So I've seen that people are joining from all around the world. So we are really happy to welcome you. So today we are going to run a special webinar around crossing borders and especially how photography is a fantastic tool to tell a story. So just before going to the presentation, I will just have a few rules for the meeting, just so everything is run smoothly. So we are all asking you to keep muted. Don't unmute yourself during the presentations. Do not have disturbing sounds. And today we're going to have a presentation on crossing borders. After the presentation will be time for question to our presenter, Jon. And if you think about something you would like to ask, don't hesitate to use the chat to write your question. But there will be also time at the end of the presentation for a Mentimeter interactive presentation when we will ask you a few questions. If you wish to have a diploma of participation, just write your email and your name on private chat. So it's important to write on private chat to not disturb the main chat to me, Floriane Marie. So you can see here, there is a small box. So you just have to click Floriane with your name and your email address. And so it's for a certificate of participation. You will receive a short survey to help us improve our webinar and suggest new topics. So maybe after the summer break, there will be more webinars and we'll be really happy to welcome you again. This webinar is recorded and will be uploaded on our website and on our YouTube channel. So we will give you the link after the webinar. And we also invite you to join our next webinar. So it's next week on the 7th of July, same hour, about inspiring students with a real life story of clean energy innovation. And we will have the opportunity to welcome the two filmmakers of Point of No Returns, a documentary about green energies. So for today's meeting, today's webinar, we have the pleasure to welcome Jon. He's a biologist on paper, but a photographer at heart. Jon works to get people closer to nature and raise awareness about climate change and its risk. As we talked about, and Jon is going to show, his photography and microscopy works for children. And he also works, so he's German, he works in Berlin. And he has done a lot of projects, but I think I will let you the floor to talk about all of that. And I will just extra emphasize that this special webinar is organized in partnership with International Youth Photo Festival. So it's a German initiative, but it's growing as a really nice network past the few past years in creating a network to bring people together on photographic and artistic projects with a special environmental focus. And we are happy to be part of this first official festival, which will be running for a few weeks and which was launched with the first exhibition last Friday. This festival brings together international organization and German organization with Grün Berlin, but also the Artistic School of Berlin. And is going to develop with more initiative in the future, more webinar, exhibition, and we are really looking forward to it. As part of the Warrior program, a number of students had the opportunity to be featured and exhibited for this festival. And we hope to have much more initiative and much more collaboration in the future. So we also encourage, if you have Warrior students here, to participate in this program, but also in all the collaboration that we are going to run with this festival. And I'm sure that we'll have much more story to tell, and you are going to be really inspired by Jon's story. So just before going to Jon's presentation, I will also let the floor to Gosia, who is going to introduce the Young Reporter for the Environment Program. So you will be all updated on what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Florian. And because we are expecting a lot of new people that maybe don't know the YRE program that Florian mentioned, I would like to show you just very few slides about our program, and maybe you will find it interesting and you will be interested to be part of our initiative. So Young Reporters for the Environment program is a program that gives young people an opportunity to share their ideas and voices through different journalistic media, like photography, video, and writing, like articles. The program is open for students from 11 to 25 years old, and at the moment is running in 45 countries. And we are part of Foundation for Environmental Education Network, and the countries that can be part, and students that can be part of this program need to come one of the member countries. If you are not in the country that the YRE program is run, you can maybe collaborate with us through social media, but you cannot be part of this program, like fully participate in the competition. But I hope most of you is from the countries that we have YRE program, and you can join us. The YRE program is run through 4 steps. And the first step is to investigate local issues and discover what is the problem on the research, and ask some stakeholders on the topic. And then you can write the report and make the video or photo. And the last very important step is also to disseminate the story, because we don't want stories that are written and hidden somewhere at home. We want the stories that will inspire other people to take actions and make a positive change. And through our program, we are also running international competition. This program is also can be run as a school-based program. We have lesson plans and many materials for teachers that can be introduced to schools. But on top of that, there is an international competition that is run on national and international levels. And you can participate in the competition through that few categories that I just mentioned before: video, photo, video reportage, video campaign, single photo, photo campaign, photo reportage, and photo story, and writing, which is articles. More about the competition you can find also on our website. We are also involving our students into different conferences and meetings on national and international level. Our aim is also to send students to different international conferences when they can act as young journalists, write stories, and be part of press that covers different conferences, mostly like on UN level, like UNESCO, UNEP, like COP, or Climate Summit, or World Environmental Educational Conferences. We are also having a network of YRE alumni. The program is open for the YRE ambassadors, or the part of this program, when the ambassadors of the program who graduated the program are also educating and sharing knowledge on national level. And they are working closely with our member organizations and national operators in the countries. And also most often we ask our ambassadors to be, for example, speakers at our webinars and share their stories and experience. We are also having the YRE Hub, which is a YRE blog, and it's open for every student who would like to share stories through our international website. And if you are interested to also publish stories there, you can get login and passwords through your national operator in the country. And we are promoting that through different international media. There is also a lot of tutorials and handbooks and manuals for students and teachers that are available on our website. So you are welcome to investigate what you can find interesting and useful, both for teachers and for students. And if you have any other questions and any needs from us as the YRE program team, you can contact us through the website, that you can find information and contacts, and you are welcome to come back to us with any question and need that you have. So thank you so much. And now we will give the floor to Jon.
So Thank you so much for this first informations. And before anything starts, I would like also to thank you, young reporters for the environment, that you give us, like you gave me and the Youth Photo Festival the opportunity to talk about us and about what we do. So for that reason, thank you so much for giving us this platform. And yes, so just a small detail, I live in Germany, but I'm not German. My name is Jon. I am biologist, as Florian said, from Spain, and I moved to Germany almost 9 years ago. I'm a bit Germanized though, with so many time. And again, also thank you all people being here live with us for your interest in this story. I hope you enjoy the story as much as I did living it. And before we start with the real presentation, I would like to show you a small video and put you in the context of the story that I'm going to tell. So now, here we go.
In Afghanistan gab es Krieg, deswegen sind wir in Deutschland gekommen. Ich war mit meiner Familie auf dem Boot, jemand hat das kaputt gemacht und viele Leute sind ertrunken.
In Afghanistan war sehr kompliziert, eine gute Zukunft zu haben.
Unser Land und in Afghanistan und Iran waren Jäger und die heißen Daesh und die töten immer Leute. Bei mir ist Fuchs richtig wertvoll, weil sie so schön und sauber, ein bisschen eklig sind, weil die Rabe essen. Also ich bin glücklich, dass manche Menschen die Füchse oder die anderen Tiere respektieren.
Ich fand es schön, dass alle Kinder jetzt verstanden haben, dass die keine Füchse ärgern sollen.
Für mich sehen die Füchse cool aus, weil die richtig höher springen und richtig stark zubeißen und richtig schnell rennen.
This video shows a new reality, but it was not always so ideal. I started working at the Spandau Barracks in 2016. I had a job as a sports educator with refugee kids. It was 4 hours a day and 5 days a week. It was a completely new world for me, and in it, the most different backgrounds and cultures came together. And I must confess, at the beginning, every day was very stressful. Many families lived inside the red line you can see in this picture. A walled area including local businesses, workshops, and warehouses. But most of those were abandoned buildings. And for those who do not know anything about Berlin, right in front of the barracks, Hitler's deputy Rudolf Hess spent his last days until his death in 1987. Today, luckily, it's only a supermarket. It's quite funny. It is a very special area, and little did I know about the many highlights the barracks were hiding from me. After some time, I discovered it was a place that was full of life, and I loved that. Working up to 30 children at a time was not an easy thing to do. It was noisy and chaotic, but I found peace after work when I got lost between those buildings while trying to take photos of my favorite animals, the foxes. But that didn't last long. Very soon the children realized I was hanging out there after work. And of course, as long as Jon was there, they wanted to be there as well. So they joined me right away. They started playing with my gear from the very beginning, but they also wanted to observe and photograph the animals. Here you have to bear in mind that some of these children were afraid of the kind of animals you can spot in a European capital, like foxes, raccoons, bats, and so on. And not so long ago, they would have thrown stones and sticks at them because they thought they were dangerous animals. But as you can imagine, having 15 kids following a fox is not the most official way to get a photo. Therefore, we had to find a new approach, and we did, with camera traps. We set everything right there, and we just had to wait for the foxes to come. It was a great idea, the kids loved it, but the foxes were not always playing their part. And it's not that they were shy, because they were almost always there, but they were always sitting behind or next to the camera, never in the place we wanted them to be. And when they finally moved in the right direction, it was not the perspective that we expected. At this moment, I have a really nice butt picture from a fox. This is Yuxela. She's from Macedonia. And one day, while we were playing football, suddenly she started shouting, "There's a fox in a wall." And was like, "Oh, okay, a fox in the wall?" All the other children laughed at her, but somehow I kept an eye on that wall for the rest of the afternoon. And just a couple of days later, we were very happy that we finally had taken our first photo, the fox in the wall. And what was even better, we had found a fox then. We spent many days there, many evenings. We took many pictures, and we had many different stories related to that spot. One of them was on an evening when the camera trap started shooting faster and more than normal. Something was going on there. One of my main goals with the kids was to teach them to respect the animals. And for that reason, we packed everything and we left, because I thought we were disturbing them. To my surprise, as soon as I checked the photos at home, I understood their frenzy. The animals had ignored us completely. They were too busy with something far more interesting than our cameras. They had discovered the leftovers of a barbecue. And it was so funny. We had so many photos of foxes carrying sausages and all kinds of meat. But at the same time, the kids learned something about the animals. They had to survive, so they would feed on everything they could. And sadly, they were not always able to pick the right stuff. Taking pictures at the den was great. It was a great time, or at least it was for me. The kids needed new adventures, because otherwise they would just lose interest in the same spot over and over again. And for that reason, we started a new game. With all the tips I received from them, we scouted new locations where the foxes were active. Everything had to be in place. So we tested the outcome of the pictures by having the children pose for the cameras, acting as if they were a fox. The first one was Stanko. He pretended to be a fox and searched for prey. And a few hours later, we were surprised because the fox showed up right in the same spot. So it worked out. And Stanko couldn't believe his eyes. He was super happy. This is Lavica, Stanko's sister. For me, having girls taking part in our little project was very important. And thanks to her, I was able to approach many other girls. I must confess that she was actually not super thrilled at the beginning, but at the end, she started playing around and she made the jumping fox. The fox didn't jump, unfortunately, but it did show up for her. And I was also very happy so that Slavica could have her picture taken. With the time, we developed crazier ideas. And as soon as we found this abandoned oven, we knew we had to give it a shot. The first weeks were quite disappointing, to be honest. So we waited many evenings there and nothing would happen. The only photos in the camera were those of curious kids having a look at what we were doing, or from the teenagers who tried to fool me. I was a bit mad at the beginning, but I must confess this is one of my favorite pictures today. But there was no room for giving up. We had a photo in mind and we had to get it done. It took us a month, but patience finally paid off. We had the photo. We could not believe it. The kids and myself, we were ecstatic and asked me all the time if I had used Photoshop. But luckily for us, the fox had played his part and everything else had come into place. We were extremely happy with the results. We had become a team, the Fox team, and we had made it. We had the photo. In a few months only, we took many great pictures and we lived many great photos together. But the best was the strong bond that we had created with each other. Reza is a great guy. As you saw in the video, maybe, he comes from Afghanistan. He was part of the team from the very beginning. And he always showed a special sensitivity for everything. But he's not perfect. He's a huge Real Madrid fan. And he knows I like Barca. I mean, I'm from Barcelona. And it might sound quite funny now, but I promise you, to receive every day these kind of pictures via WhatsApp is very annoying. Thankfully, that changed with the time, and slowly these pictures were not coming anymore. Instead of them, they would send these pictures. And not only Reza, also other kids started sending photos from the foxes, and with them also their whereabouts, so that we could take new photos together and scout for new locations together. But back to Reza. Today, he's super happy in Berlin. He's very good at school and he wants to go to uni. But his life was not always that easy. When he was 3, his father was shot dead next to him. He will never forget that image. This is Mustafa from Iraq. He didn't take photos with his phone, but he loved painting foxes out of my pictures. Although this time I told Mustafa that actually I think he mistook the fox for a rat. But anyway, it's art. When Mustafa was 5 and was traveling with his family on a Zodiac to the Greek coast, someone punctured the boat with a butcher's knife, only 500 meters away from the coast, and every person on board ended up in the water, in the dark. All of Mustafa's family survived, but he still remembers what it was like to swim in the dark, following the screams coming from the coast and knowing some would not make it. Today, he still has nightmares about that night. This is Nargis. She loves nature. And even if she's still very young, she's very concerned about the environment. Her family was directly threatened with death by the Taliban. And for that reason, they had to leave their home. Nargis, 4 of her siblings and their parents made it from Afghanistan to Berlin through the Balkan route, and they walked half of the way. And here comes Stanko again. He's one of the boys who ran after the foxes a couple of years ago, throwing stones and sticks at them. And look at him now. He loved my cameras. And of course, the bigger the better, he said. And Although he was quite afraid of the animals at the beginning, that changed very fast. After so many evenings taking out to see them, he slowly started to love them and respect them. And was even better, he brought his younger brother Kiki along to show him how cool these animals were. Stanko became our fox expert. He was always happy to show off with these pictures. Everyone knew about him and his endeavors, and people started calling him the Fox Whisperer. It was more than 12 months of work, more than 200 hours together, but not every moment was easy. One day, I was waiting for the cameras to go off at a new spot when Ersan and Medina, two kids from Macedonia, came running towards us. They had seen a fox somewhere and they were super excited about that. As they took me to that place, Ersan pointed upwards to the first door of an abandoned warehouse and said, "There he is." I could not believe my eyes. There was a fox on the windowsill. I mean, how fun is that? I sent the kids back to the van and I tried to get upstairs. And then I realized only one door was closed. I pushed it hard to open it and I saw the fox, but he was not alone there. There were two young fox kids in that room, which had clearly been locked on purpose. They were completely desperate. They had been locked in there for at least, a couple of days. It took me a while to free them, but at the end, thanks to Ersan and Medina, we could release the foxes so the other kids were able to enjoy their presence for the weeks to come. But not all of them. Our heroes, Ersan and Medina, were deported with their families shortly after the rescue. I didn't have any contact to them for a long time, and I was not allowed to say goodbye. But 3 months later, Cengiz, Medina's older brother, found me on Facebook, and that was a new beginning. I was super happy. It was a big challenge communication-wise, but 1 year later, I finally found out where they lived in Macedonia, and right away I booked a flight. It was a very emotional reunion, and of course, I had to bring them the photo of the rescue. The young heroes have not forgotten the two young foxes, and they are still very proud of that action. But unfortunately, foxes didn't play a role in their lives anymore. Ersan only goes to school from time to time. He spends his days with his father, gathering trash and then selling it. His sister, Yüksela, who found the fox in the wall, still loves taking pictures. But she misses a lot playing football with the other kids. These children have no schedules anymore. They spend all day outside, and one of their biggest highlights is playing with sand at night. They said to me they call them their own sandy fireworks. It was so moving to see this as scene. It was so moving to see how happy they were with so little. Medina, she lives 50 kilometers away from Ersan. She spends almost the entire day at home and helps her mother running errands. Her younger sister, Sania, loves to go out. She loves to look out for new treasures in the trash yard behind their home. And this is Cengiz, the older brother. He told me he misses so much all his old friends from the youth club, but he's very proud and happy to work with his younger sister Anela over 10 hours a day to support his family. Once in a while, they can afford a taxi home. And then, when the whole family gets together, they can enjoy the evenings at home. It is a bit tight though, when they do. But evenings are cozy and they all sleep next to each other. Today, their friend from Berlin, they are still allowed to be kids. They can play every day. And they are very happy that they can go to school, or at least when there's no lockdown because of the coronavirus, of course. In this picture, you can see Ainur from Turkmenistan. She's doing her English homework, which I find is very inspiring because German as a language is not a challenge anymore for them. So now it's only English, the difficult part. And of course, foxes still play a key role in our activities and parties. They still love these animals, but today in a different way. As you can have seen in these last pictures, the kids do not live in the barracks anymore. Many of them were deported. Many others were moved into new shelters. That is why we were not chasing foxes anymore, but they are still eager for new projects. Last March, I was in Scotland with my partner. We were on holiday and just wanted to relax and enjoy the landscape. We didn't have any project in mind whatsoever. But as soon as we were at the coast, we found out the landscape was not as charming it is in the postcards. There were trash all over the place. And given the situation, I didn't want to produce beautiful pictures, not from a landscape with so much plastic. We decided to do something different. We put all the trash together and started forming animals out of everything we found in each place. That at least felt a bit better, especially those times we could collect the trash and put it in the right containers. That was not always the case. Many times we just were far away from any street, home whatsoever, so we had to leave the figures because they were too big to carry with us. As soon as I was back at work, the children, as always, asked me about my time out of town. I showed them these pictures, of course, as I always do, and I told them everything we had seen. They were fascinated and hooked. They wanted to do the same, and they wanted to do it immediately. 2 hours later, the youth club where we meet once a week was clean and shiny. And I bet you can imagine what they wanted to create, right? Of course, a fox had to be. What else? I was super surprised. I was quite overwhelmed. I didn't expect this reaction from them. Not so quick. They wanted to collect trash to help. So I talked to my colleagues from the administration at the shelter, and we planned a bigger cleanup action. We bought, of course, colorful clothes for them so that they would be safe. And we didn't want to use just plastic bags because that was not meant to be this way. So we bought sacks so that we would reuse them any time over and over. And this is how it looked like at the end.
Kinder schmeißen so viele Sachen, danach sage ich, Müll schmeißen, nicht immer raus.
Heute haben wir Schlangen gefunden, Papier, Schuhe, Chips, Saft.
Dann haben wir angefangen, ich und meine Freundin, haben wir eine Tüte genommen. Dann haben wir erstmal gesagt, wir sind der Weihnachtsmann.
haben heute eine Müllaktion gemacht und es war total cool.
Weil es schön aussieht, weil wir die ganze Heim aufräumen wollen.
Wir haben alles zusammen, so wie eine Familie.
Gras habe ich gefunden, Papier, alles. Und wir haben den Müll da gebracht, rausgegangen und Müll gesammelt. Und da sind wir hier gekommen, einen Pinguin gebastelt, dann alles wieder aufgeräumt und ein paar Fotos gemacht.
Wir nehmen wieder die Säcke.
Wir haben schon das einmal gemacht, einen Fuchs, und heute haben wir einen Pinguin gemacht.
Ich mag sehr Pinguinen, aber weil ich will einen haben, viele haben.
It is hard. It is hard to watch how sometimes these families do not even get a chance from some people. They have given me everything and have changed my photography and my perspective in life. As one of my favorite photographers, Sebastião Salgado, says, photography is a language and you have to love it if you want to speak it correctly. I personally do not know if it is right to say that they all love photography, but what I do know is that through this new language for them, this little group of children have learned how to love and respect nature. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jon. I think we've been all impressed and also moved by those wonderful stories. And we will go for, I've seen a small question popping out, but I had a first question. We've seen that you were really involved with the kids, but how it started, how the interest started for them, and how did you maintain the interest for them to be part 100% in the project? What was your magic trick to keep the engagement of children?
It's a very good question. I mean, there's no magic in anything that we've made. At the end, we just gave them the possibility to make things, to create things. One of the things that was more important to me was to show them that we are equals, that I don't care, they are kids and I am a grown-up. I want them to feel the same way. So if they want to play with expensive stuff, so be it. They can play with it. If you want to share the time with me until late, they can join me, because for me it was an opportunity to get closer to them. With the sport and so on was very cool, but with these projects I had the chance to spend many empty hours, many evenings without photos, because the foxes wouldn't show up. So I could talk to them and get to know them better. And that made a huge difference to my whole work at the end, because we were bonding in a real way. I was not just working with them, but I was a friend. I was part of the family. And
also another question, did you introduce them to technical rules of photography? Because the photos are really impressive. So did you also part of technically show them how to do it?
I partly showed some of them some technicals from the cameras and so on. We set everything up together, but at the end I was always there to have a look that everything was right. So they didn't take the photos by themselves. Most of these are photos that I have taken. And of course I have several photos, and I love the photos they send me with the mobile phones and so on. And these ones are photos that they took by themselves without me, but with the phones, of course. at the end, for me, photography is just a tool, and the technical stuff and so on, I think it's a bit boring. So I try to leave it in a second row. So just use the camera for something cool. The camera itself is not cool.
Let's also show a question. So question is, did the fox get used to this human smells? I think it was more also someone interesting in how the fox got really close to the children and how you were able to have so much great photos with a really close approach to nature.
That's also a very good question. To begin with, I want to say that I always said to the kids, foxes are wild and they have to be wild. So many kids wanted to pet them. They wanted to get even closer, but they are wild animals. And although we love the animals and we would not harm them, not everyone would do the same. So I always wanted to keep some distance unless the foxes come to us, which was the case with the stanco. And it's not that they are used to our smell, but I guess, so they are very social and smart animals. They know who they have in front of them every time, and they can recognize people apart. So they just got used to ourselves and our presence, and because they saw that we didn't mean any harm, that we didn't want to hand them away or whatsoever, they just enjoyed our presence as much as we did with theirs sometimes.
I have two questions that I will try to condense in one. Is what was the biggest success of this activity with children, and personally, what this project taught you by yourself? So what was the effect on the children and also on you?
On the children, they started reacting to different projects in a different way. So they were more sensitive and more susceptible to participate, and they were encouraging each other to be part of anything that we wanted to do with them, and that was great. And as you have seen in some of the pictures, I've seen myself these pictures. These kids throwing stones at the foxes and at other animals, raccoons and so on. Once they told me they had seen a devil and it was a raccoon. Because they were very, very afraid. And at the end, they accepted these animals are no harm, and they enjoyed being with them and enjoying them. And the real change was for me. I was always, I must confess, at the beginning of this project was to create cool photos of city foxes. And I did not want to take this from the beginning with the kids, or at least it was not in my plan. But because they were there and they were stubborn and they didn't want to leave, I had to accept them. And thanks to them, my perspective into this project changed completely. If I had not had them pushing me to accept them, I would have now a couple of nice pictures of foxes, but everyone can take photos of foxes. But thanks to them, they changed my way of seeing photography, and that has helped me in further projects and in my professional career as well. So I'm very thankful, and I will always be very thankful to these kids.
And we've seen really different story, really different photo. And do you think that behind each one of these photos there is actually an individual story?
There are many different stories, and they have all small stories behind the pictures, but at the end they all belong somehow to us, to the bigger story, to the time we spent in the barracks with these families. And I don't know, people can feel free to think of many different stories behind them. If they are inspired, then I will be very happy. For me, it's just the time I could spend very close to these families.
Thank you. So I will ask everyone to join for a small interactive presentation. So if you have more questions, we will take them in a Mentimeter. I just need to find it. So I will ask you to go to this website, Menti, www.menti.com, and to go with this code 804551. And we have a couple of questions for you to answer and also to interact with Jon. So if you can go to www.menti.com with this code 804551. I'll give you a few minutes for people to join.
In the meantime, I'm seeing all the comments here. And I'm very happy that you all enjoyed the presentation. It means a lot to me. It's I'm not old, but from so far it's been one of the most beautiful parts of my life, and I'm very happy that I could share this with you, and you enjoyed it. So thank you for being there.
Thank you to you, Jon. And we have a question. Are you planning to continue similar environmental related projects with children?
Yes. Unfortunately, not with all of them, because many don't live here anymore and so on. But for instance, the project with the plastic, we are working on it. Yesterday, we cleaned up another park and we made a beautiful, huge snail. It's funny. The picture is quite funny. Maybe one day I can show it to you. The kids wanted to do definitely a snail, and we will do that every week, more or less, until the end of the year, together with also schools from Berlin and so on. And we will try to have an exhibition on the topic of plastic pollution and so on. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this kind of project with them for a long, long time, but as long as I can, I will.
And yes, someone was also interested because the person was impressed that the fox didn't run away and they were not afraid by humans. So it's what also you said, like.
Yeah. In the beginning, they were a bit afraid, of course, but when they learned that we were harmless, that we didn't want to scare them whatsoever, they just accepted us.
And I see lots of good comments that they all been impressed by your stories and the great project. Really touching, I must admit.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If you have more questions, you can type them on chat. I will go to the next question. So it was also related to the story of foxes. We were interested in knowing what kind of animals that people won't expect live in your city or around you. So we thought that it was interesting also with so many people coming from all around the world. So if you can share that, we will be really interested to know.
I mean, after seeing so many people from different parts of the world, I think the animals we have here in Berlin are quite boring in comparison. I know there are leopards living in Mumbai, are many wild, huge animals, beautiful animals living in many other parts of many other cities of the world. And here in Berlin, we are very happy to have many, many foxes. We have over 5,000 foxes. We have raccoons, badgers, many different species. I think it's more than 500 species of birds. I don't know if I mistake that. And yeah, I can't wait to read all the pictures you have, all the animals you
write. Malta, they say that they don't have wild animal living in the open except for street rat, bird, and hedgehog. But I think your story also shown that some animals that we don't pay attention to. When I've been also to London, and there are lots of fox everywhere, but I think people don't pay attention to that anymore. But we can still create and tell a story with that, and that's
Yeah.
also the power of nature.
Exactly. The good thing is that we humans slowly, very slowly, are starting to understand that they are good to have. They help us a lot. Having a lot of foxes, we don't have many mice or rats, and that's good to understand. And slowly we accept them, so they feel more comfortable in the cities than on the land, on nature. So they come more and more and more.
Someone say kingfisher and macaque, which is quite common in Southeast Asia, and which sounds really exotic for us in Europe. Lots of birds.
There are many cool stories with macaques.
Someone is saying also in Indonesia, the rare animals are orangutans. I don't know how if I pronounce it well. And is also saying maybe you can invite us to make such kind of that picture to judge people nationally, internationally to protect this animal. And I think it's also one of the aim of this webinar and from the Youth Photo Festival is also giving highlights to this story, which are local but can also be shared internationally, because it's inspiring for all around the world. And from a local and human story, we can inspire much more. I will go to the next question. Someone is saying also birds and endemic that is called teporingo. I don't know what. In one word, what photography represents for you, or what impact it can have on the audience or on people seeing the picture?
Can't wait to see the answers.
So maybe, Joan, you can tell us your one word.
Photography is a very powerful tool. It can lead to change and to inspire, and can inspire people to start doing things, because not many people have the access to everything, to see all the damages going on in parts far away from the globe. But with photography, we can bring these problems into their homes, and then we can show them that it's actually even sometimes not even that far away. So we can inspire them to change and to create a movement and to raise awareness.
We see powerful weapon, magic door, perspective, exposure, discovery, challenging. I think, yeah, you've experienced that photography can be also challenging sometimes.
Many times.
Speak a thousand words, raise awareness. Yes, I think you were also the perfect example of raising awareness to wildlife, and it's even more important where lots of species are disappearing, but it's also important to raise awareness in all the communities. Dreams, inner voice, tell a story, and what a story you told. Discovery, send a message. I think it's what brings together all these answers is also sharing something, and how photography can also connect people.
Yes, exactly. Photography is also a great tool to create empathy, and empathy is something that we need today more than ever, to understand what other people is going through, to have acceptance for them and try to help them. It's not, because at the end it's not only nature. We are also a big part, very important part of the whole problem, and we are gonna have we're gonna feel damage. And many people, I guess many people from here, it's very funny to see to say this from Berlin, here is safe, everything works out, but I guess many people listening now to us will know what I mean, because they are facing every day these troubles in a daily basis.
And the final question. did you find the webinar useful, interesting? So you still have time to answer.
Okay, look to the side.
If you still have questions, you can still type them on chat. And so we'll take the last questions.
I've seen there have been a couple of questions here, but to me, I don't know if the chat is going to be deleted or because I would like to go through the comments that you made through the presentation, so I can give all those people who wrote me.
Yeah, the chat is saved, and I can forward you the question, and we will. I will create a Word document and put the answer from the question on our website next to the recording.
Great, thank you so much.
But maybe you can answer some of the questions that you have seen. I see my chat is really also, I receive a lot of message.
Maybe I'm very happy to see so far it's been very useful and useful. Maybe if you have any point of critique, would be also interesting to hear, because at the end, if for the next time I can do the presentation even better, that's more than welcome.
For now, everyone agrees that it was really useful. And Gosha, if you have also any question or any final remark to Jon.
I was typing them before to you on them, so they were taken. There was a question also to remind and say about the next webinar, but to Jon, and there was one, if you can give contact to your Twitter or something to write them on chat, so people would be happy to follow you, or if there is any other like Instagram or page when we can get in contact or to follow.
Definitely.
There. Yeah.
I am writing now Instagram. I don't have Twitter, sorry. I know I should someday start with Twitter, but
I think Instagram is fine.
Yeah, Instagram, and you can find me also on Facebook with that same name, Jon Juarez. And write me there if you have further questions, whatever. I'll be very happy to answer you in private.
That's really impressive, and I want to say as well that in the YRE program, we are always telling our students that the most interesting story are always stories about other people, because that brings emotions, that shows what is behind that story, and we like to hear about other people. And you actually brought this perfect example how through photography tells story about other people, about children from the refugee camps, and the stories about their life and the connection with nature. And what I seen also in this, it was a fantastic opportunity for students to actually get new skills, to, as you mentioned as well, to learn about empathy, in between also like to understand the animals living there and know them better. For us on this webinar also to learn the empathy about children that participated in the project. But for the students that participated in this, for children there, it was an opportunity to write skills and learn something new from the photography perspective, and about this, what can actually bring them for the future life. And it was amazing how you show the story about the family that moved to Macedonia and how they live now, but they still remember this, what they learned through that experience. And this is really impressive and fantastic story. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. For me, this story is kind of, it's my message that I want to spread as much as I can. I love to tell this story because it gives a different perspective and to people who don't know anything. In Europe, there's a big fuss with the word refugee, and there's a lot of crisis going on. And I think it's a pity, because at the end, they all are people and they want the same as we want. They want to live.
Yeah.
Live life and nothing else. And if I can with these pictures and with these small stories to create empathy, so that people listening to them will be nicer and kinder to them the next time they see someone different, then I'm going to be very happy.
Yeah.
And what we mentioned about Macedonia, I'm very happy as well that it worked out. And I've been there twice. And now with Corona, I had to cancel one trip. But the idea is to show them that we haven't forgotten them, that we're there and we will visit them at least once or twice a year, as long as we can.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also that the story that you showed us, it's also a huge inspiration for any of us to take maybe similar activities. We all are facing in every country's problem with refugees, camps, people that are in lower economical level, and maybe not don't having so access to schools or education or any other activities that people that are living around, and we can have similar projects in between one group of young people and another from another economical status and things like that, and learn from each other and observe nature. So I think it can be brought to every country that attended the webinar today as well.
Yeah, and maybe I would like to tell a small piece of advice to those who want to become photographers or are photographers or whatsoever. We tend to focus on the cameras. We tend to obsess ourselves with the technique. And it's very important that we get to know the cameras so that we can forget about them as soon as possible, because the most important thing is what is behind the camera and in front of the camera foremost. The people, the subjects we have, how we approach to them, it's way more important than the size of the lens, the quality of the camera, and whatsoever.
Exactly. That's what we say as well in the YRE program, that you can have great picture taken by mobile. You don't need expensive camera to do it.
Right. Completely right. Mm.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. We're at the end of our really interesting hour. So thank you again, Jon, and thank you also, Gosia, for this presentation of YRE. And we will invite you next week for our next webinar. Will be also directed about how to inspire students around green energy project and programs with the two filmmakers of Points of No Return documentary. So they will also show you some extract of the documentary. Would comment on that, and I think it will be really interesting, especially for teachers, to inspire your students. So thank you again, Jon. Thank you, Gosia, and thank you for everyone for joining. And see you next time.
See you soon. Thank you all for coming here. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you so much.